everyone, this is Holly Knudsen. I'm a functional health practitioner and a holistic cancer coach from Utah. And today I want to talk about the immune system. Well, what is the immune system? It's a complex system within the human body that protects against invaders, toxins, infections, and cancer. It is our primary host defense system that includes many biological processes and structures that prevent disease. We have two main immune systems, the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. These systems work in conjunction with each other, yet perform different tasks. Let's learn how each functions, especially in regard to cancer. There are two types of immunity, humoral and cell-mediated immunity. And the immune system is made up of white blood cells, proteins, and includes the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is crucial for fighting infection. It's vital for detoxification and for eliminating excess fluid from the tissues. Cellular components in the bloodstream originate in stem cells in the bone marrow. And this includes not only the two main types of white blood cells, but also red blood cells, which are called erythrocytes, and platelets. Red blood cells transport oxygen, and platelets are involved in clotting. Immune cells mature either in the bone marrow or the thymus gland. But the immune system uses both humoral and cellular defense strategies. The humoral immune response is mediated by antibodies and proteins found in body fluids that target toxins, pathogens, and cancer cells not previously ingested by phagocytes. And I'll talk more about phagocytes in a minute. Antibodies are formed against antigens in the body's humors, and these are body fluids, including blood and lymph. This is in opposition to cell-mediated immunity that involves T lymphocytes. Humoral immunity defends against extracellular pathogens by using antibodies, whereas a cell-mediated immune response does not involve antibodies and defends against intracellular pathogens by activating T cells. It also provides defense by activating natural killer cells, macrophages, cytokines, and cytotoxic T lymphocytes that are specific to the antigen being targeted. Natural killer cells and macrophages destroy pathogens within the cells, and cytotoxic T lymphocytes induce apoptosis or cell death in cancer cells and cells infected with viruses or bacteria. Cytokines influence cellular function within both the innate and adaptive immune responses. Now I want to talk about the innate immune system. The purpose of the innate, which is also called the general immune system, is to provide a general defense against invaders and to do it quickly. Although the innate immune system is the first-line defense, it's not a specialized response against specific pathogens. The defenses in this immune system include external barriers, such as the skin and mucous membranes, and immune substances in the blood and body fluids, such as saliva, stomach acid, mucus, and sweat. White blood cells, including macrophages, natural killer cells, neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, and monocytes, are also key defense components. And I'll talk more about each one of them in a few minutes. White blood cells, also called leukocytes, defend against foreign invaders and cancer cells and are involved in the inflammatory response. Each type of white blood cell performs a specific function. Phagocytes are cells that chew or phagocytize invaders. And these include immune cells such as monocytes, neutrophils, macrophages, dendritic cells, and mast cells. Some phagocytes have receptors on them for detecting bacteria, parasites, and other infection-causing pathogens. These cells also play a role in the maintenance of healthy tissue by eliminating cells that have died. Granulocytes are white blood cells that have small granules or particles on them, and these particles contain proteins. Neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, and mast cells are all granulocytes. I know this can get confusing. These cells are produced in the bone marrow via a process called granulopoiesis, and they protect against bacterial infections, especially neutrophils, which increase when serious infection is present. Low granulocyte count correlates with increased risk of infection. Okay, now I want to talk about natural killer cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, and mast cells. Natural killer cells are cytotoxic lymphocytes that are responsible for identifying viruses or tumor cells. NK cells induce apoptosis and are a pivotal defense against cancer cells. Natural killer cells identify changes in the surface of cells and, if found, use cytotoxins to dissolve them. They do this by releasing chemicals that breach the cell walls, causing them to lyse or disintegrate. The role that NK cells play in the innate immune system is similar to what cytotoxic T cells do in the adaptive immune response. They are not developed in the thymus like many immune cells. Macrophages are phagocytic, specialized immune cells that digest microbes, cellular debris, aging cells, and cancer cells. Macrophages are the big eaters of the immune system, involved in nonspecific and long-term immunity. They digest or engulf microbes and infectious particles and then present them to other white blood cells in the immune system, which then mount a defense against them. Monocytes in the bloodstream differentiate into macrophages once they reach a tissue or organ. Dendritic cells are specialized antigen-presenting cells that present antigens to other cells within the immune system. Dendritic cells originate from tissue macrophages and monocytes, and together with them form the mononuclear phagocyte system. DCs are derived from bone marrow and are found in the blood, lymphoid tissues, and skin. They are foundational for therapeutic immunizations against lymphoma, melanoma, prostate cancer, non-small cell lung carcinoma, colon cancer, malignant gliomas, renal cell carcinoma, and multiple myeloma. Mast cells. These are connective tissue cells that are found in mucous membranes and the skin. Mast cells are leukocytes that contain basophilic granules that are plentiful in both heparin, which is an anticoagulant, and histamine. These substances are released in response to inflammation and injury in the tissue. Mast cells play a role in immediate hypersensitivity reactions. Now I want to talk about basophils, monocytes, neutrophils, and eosinophils. Basophils are granulocytes that are involved in allergies, inflammation, and parasitic infections. They release histamine, which is a naturally produced chemical associated with allergic reaction, inflammation, and injury. Basophils account for about 1% of white blood cells. Monocytes are macrophages that phagocytize foreign particles and cellular debris in the bloodstream, including viruses and bacteria. They fend off fungal infections and are the largest type of white blood cell. They differentiate into dendritic cells and macrophages and represent about 5 to 12% of white blood cells. Neutrophils are the most abundant of the granulocytes, and they are phagocytic white blood cells that fight bacterial infections. They account for up to 50% of white blood cells. In fact, the majority of white blood cells are represented by neutrophils. Eosinophils are granulocytes that fight parasites and allergic reactions, and they also promote inflammation as an immune defense. Eosinophils represent approximately 5% of white blood cells in the bloodstream. And those are all immune cells in the innate immune system. Now I want to talk about the adaptive immune system. The adaptive or specialized immune system is composed of leukocytes or lymphocytes called B and T cells. B cells are formed in the bone marrow, and T cells mature in the thymus gland. Both cells defend against bacteria, viruses, and antigens. B cells produce antibodies when foreign invaders are detected. Antibodies are proteins that attach to viruses and bacteria, and they form a complex. Once these antigens are tagged, T cells then come to the rescue with the help of phagocytes. Antibodies are specialized for one pathogenic organism. The adaptive immune system is called thus because of its ability to adapt to specific antigens, invaders, and threats. Depending on what they are fighting, T lymphocytes can develop into different types of specialized cells, including T killer cells, also called cytotoxic T cells, T helper cells, regulatory T cells, and memory T cells. These lymphocytes coordinate immune responses against infections. They eradicate cells infected with viruses, activate B lymphocytes, and release cytokines to regulate immune response. Well, what are cytokines? Cytokines are proteins involved in cell communication and interaction, and they are part of the adaptive defense. These hormone-type messenger substances that are found in the tissues and blood are both pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. There are a number of cytokines that are secreted from white blood cells, including lymphokines, monokines, chemokines, and interleukins. Certain cytokines are associated with pathologic pain. Interferons are a type of cytokine that prevent the replication of viruses within the cell. If a cell does become infected by a virus, interferons are released, and this sends the signal to other immune cells to prevent the virus from spreading. Killer T cells are activated by interferons to destroy virus-infected cells. Tumor necrosis factor, or TNF, is another immune system cytokine secreted by white blood cells in response to an antigen. TNF is involved in infection and inflammation and is being studied as a cancer treatment due to its ability to cause necrosis or cell death in certain types of tumor cells. In summary, the immune system is a complex, fascinating web of white blood cells that protect us from cancer and infectious disease. We have both an innate and adaptive immune system that work together. When these systems aren't working as they should, autoimmunity, cancer, and other inflammatory diseases can arise. What do you find most intriguing about the immune system? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.